Welcome to the Wednesday Night Modeling Stream. Oh, I'm your host, Bryan Bentley. It's good to see you guys. Good to see you all. It's been a crazy week. Haven't really got much time to work on this, but that's what my stream is for. It's what I really like doing. Gives me 2 hours uninterrupted time to just work. So nice. So nice. What are we going to be doing today? Oh, let me introduce yourself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Bryan Bentley. I am the department head of modeling here at CG Spectrum. For all your modeling needs, go to cgspectrum.com/3D-modeling. So, what have we been working on the last couple weeks? So, we've been working on this guy. So, it's an environment, like it looks like, I wanted to make it look like it's like lost ruins in a forest. We've made some grass. We made short grass, we made tall grass, we made some vines, and now we're into some shading theory. Now, you may be wondering, hey, Bryan, this is a modeling stream. Why are you doing shading theory? Because those two things kind of go hand in hand. Now, in some companies, you may, you may just be modeling, and you might have a look development artist that works with you and surfaces your models. In other smaller companies, you might do the whole thing yourself. In some companies, you might do the whole thing. You might do, design, modeling, animation. So it takes all kinds, and it's always good to at least expand your horizons a little bit to learn some new stuff. So this is where we left off last time. So I have, so these are like my little examples here that I'm looking at. So I have this stone material, I have this mud material. So the mud material is pretty straightforward. It just looks at the UVs and repeats the mud over and over and over again. Now, this stone material is a little bit more interesting, or at least I think it is. Because the stone material I'm building because I don't want to UV these stones. I don't want to do it. I want their texture to be based on their position in space. So for that, I've been using what's called Planar Projection. So it basically, if you have, let's say you have, so basically we have this object here, like that. It's got faces that point forward, like that. It's got faces that point up, and it's got faces that point to the right. What triplanar projection will do is it will project a plane through each axis. And it will project a texture on each one of those axes, and then where they meet on the edges, it will blend between them. So this is great for organic stuff like rocks, moss, mud, rust, dings and scratches. It's really good for stuff that just needs to kind of arbitrarily cover an entire surface in kind of like a randomized manner. It's really good for that type of naturalistic stuff. So that's where we left off last time. I did some research because, like, once again, I don't know everything, and I ran into some hiccups that I didn't really know how to deal with. I did some research, and I'll share with this knowledge now with you. So this is where we're at right now. So I have this mud material, I have the stone material. Okay. So I am going to go ahead and just let this render. So let it let it do its thing. Okay, so there's my render, and if we look, so we're getting some of the stone displacement in here. We're getting that stone displacement through in here. Yes, I am modeling in Houdini. Houdini is great for environments. Actually, it's great for everything, but especially with the way that it can scatter arbitrary geometry and its use of noises and scale and repetition and recursion. It's really, really good for environments. It's very, very, very versatile, very, very malleable. Okay, so we have this. So if I jump into this my stone material here, so I have 3 textures. So this guy is, and I should probably label these. I'm going to change the names of these so just so I know. So this is my albedo. So I'll call this albedo. So this is controlling my color. This down here, this is my roughness. And I got these textures off of texture.com. They're not anything super duper special. And then this is height or displacement. Cool. So this height is going into displacement, and displacement is going to displacement is displaced along normal. Now, this set of this geometry also comes with a normal map. It also comes with it also comes with so what I'm looking for, it also comes with a ambient occlusion map. That's what I was looking for, ambient occlusion. So I'm gonna try to fold that in as well. So first thing I want to do is I want to take care of this normal map. Now this confused the bejesus out of me. I was like, where do you plug in the normal map? There's no clear place to plug it in. And I did some research, and lo and behold, I just wasn't looking. Like, there's this normal here, right? So there's a normal here for my diffuse lobe, and there's a normal, where is it? Here for my reflection. So that's my specularity. So I was like, well, how do I use this? So what I tried to do is I tried to plug this directly in to those, and it just didn't work. It just kind of broke everything. Nothing worked. And I found the answer is actually in the displacement node. So I'm going to make a copy of this displacement node so I don't mess up what I already have. So I'm going to hit Alt, grab that, press Y, cut that. And I want to bring this all the way up here. And so what the displacement node is it's actually more like a what's your advice for a young environment artist who has no job experience yet? I would say start making stuff. Like, really, that's the best thing to do. People ask me that a lot. It's like, oh, how do I get into this? How do I just make stuff? Like, literally make stuff. Like, it doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter if it's terrible, right? You have to start somewhere. And I can't stress this enough. This is the danger of social media. This is the danger of things like ArtStation and Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter, is you see all this amazing artwork and you're like, oh my God, I'll never be that good. Everybody feels that way. Even professionals feel that way. I feel that way because you're seeing that upper crust. You're seeing that upper, 1%. You're not seeing the millions, literally millions of people making, less than Ubisoft and Blizzard and whoever else you want to compare yourself to. So you just need to start making stuff. Hey Hardik, what's going on, man? How you doing? Just start making stuff. Make something and make it as fast as you can in the beginning. Make a project, and then if it's terrible, you don't have to show it to anybody. Throw it away. Pretend it didn't happen, and then make another one. Take what you learned on that first project, even if it looks absolutely terrible. You will have learned something from it. You have gained some sort of knowledge from that project. And then what you do, you throw that one away, or if you like it, you can show it to people. Print it out, show it to your mom. She loves you. She'll tell you it's awesome, right? And then you do it again. And then you get a little bit better, and you learn a little bit more. And maybe that one looks terrible, and you do it again and again and again and again until eventually, right? Eventually, it'll get better. Eventually, you'll turn a corner, and you're like, oh, that looks pretty dope. Like, I think I like that. It looks pretty good. I'm going to show that to some people. And then you show it to people, and show it to people who are honest with you, right? Show it to people, and they'll be like, oh, that's cool, but maybe this doesn't make any sense, or that doesn't look real, or that needs help. Right? No face modeling today. I like to finish my projects. The next project is, since so many people are asking about it, in the next project I'll probably be doing an actual character. I like doing, right now I've been doing a lot of environment stuff because that's kind of what's, in demand with things like VR and AR and, just epic games, just eating everything. Environment artists are very, very, very needed. So if you want to get a job quickly, being an environment artist is a good way to go. Yeah, so make stuff. Right. Okay, so back to my displacement. So on this displacement, I'm going to actually reset these. There's no defaults on this. Revert to defaults and revert to defaults. Here, yep. So I'm going to stop this from rendering. So in this type, there's a displacement model, normal, and then there's just normal. Bang. So I can plug my color into my value here. So my normal map goes into this. This is normal, and this is normal. Convert, and then this is just my normal data. And we'll try planar, right? So I have an effect scale. I have a flip Y and flip Z. That's fine. Space, UV tangent space is fine. Yes, I did do the Buddha model, the Buddha model about a month ago with the rocks and stuff like that. I think I did like a gold plating, like it looked like gold was like chipped off of it. Yeah, I did that one. That was super fun. I really enjoyed that. So that's what kind of sent me down this road. In fact, I probably should be using this Buddha instead of this head, but it is what it is. Okay, so I'm gonna take my out in, so my out normal here. And then I'm going to just plug that into the normal of my diffuse, and I'm going to take the out in and plug that into the normal of my reflection. So we're really far away from these things, so I don't think this is going to have much of an impact, but it's worth noting how to do. So let's go ahead and let's render that. Hopefully nothing explodes. Awesome. So we're getting a little bit of extra detail in here now. Some of this craggy stuff in here. I think my effect scale is way too big, so I'm going to put that down to like maybe, let's do 0.1. Yeah, I'm basically making this rock material. All right, that's a little bit too little, so maybe 0.5. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to drag right here, so all my computing power just goes right there. Maybe 0.25. Let's start to dial this in. Two. Yeah, okay. I think that's good enough. Yeah, that feels good. Maybe back to 0.25. So that's how we can implement normal maps. So the next thing I want to do is I want to implement my I keep forgetting this word. Ambient occlusion. Yes, ambient occlusion. So what I'm going to do, just to save some space, I'm going to fold these guys down so they're not so in the way. Oh, I think there's actually a little collapsey button here. That's the name of it. Ah, yeah, collapsey button. There we go. Oh, maybe I don't want that so collapsed. There we go. And I'm going to stop this rendering. Cool. So it just gives me a little bit of real estate. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm actually going to take my my ambient occlusion, and I'm going to multiply that by my albedo. So I'll get like some dark spots on my albedo. It'll emphasize the cracks and crevices and stuff. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm just going to hold down Alt, pull this up, so it should get keep all my connections there. So I call this AO, and I'm going to go get that AO. So this was Smooth Cliff 1K. Where is it? Smooth Cliff 1K, and this is my ambient occlusion. Okay. Right, so I'm going to take and I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go, that's my y-axis, this will be my, make sure I have the same material, or the same image on all three axes as well. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to multiply this color by this color. So if I go ahead and just plug this into, let's just plug this into the color of my diffuse, see what it looks like. That's really weird. I'm looking for my view bar, but I'm getting like this ambient occlusion here. So I can multiply, so I'm getting this down here. So I'm going to multiply this by my color. Rocket surgery. Yeah, and they were for me and at the beginning, and what really like made me understand them is really literally just learning about digital color, because that's really all they're doing. It's just red, green, blue values, and then vectors, really, for the most part, for what we're doing here. So I'm going to take this black and white value, and I'm going to multiply it by my color. So wherever this is black, I'm going to get darker values. Wherever it's white, it's going to get left alone, because in computer graphics, black is 0, white is 1. 0 multiplied by anything is 0. 1 multiplied by anything is that thing. 0.5 multiplied by anything is half. So if I have 50% gray values here, then I'll get, 50% of the brightness of my color. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to say multiply. You remember to make this stop rendering. Stop. So I'm going to multiply my color, my albedo, by my, and we're going to plug that into the color there. So I think organizationally, my normal map should go below my color. Yeah, I think I like that a little bit better. I'm very much a stickler for keeping my node trees nice and clean. Okay, so let's render that. So yeah, get a little bit more. You can already tell I'm getting a little bit more detail in there with that. What's the word I'm looking for? With the ambient occlusion. I don't know why I can't think of that word today. Okay, great. So we have, like, this is our kind of our functioning shader, right? So the thing that I want to do now is I want to put moss on top of this thing. So there's a couple different ways I could do this. I could make a different moss texture, and I could blend them on the outside of this. And this is the kind of the thing that's really crazy about Houdini, is it has so many different like ways to do things. It's hard to decide. So let's see, how do I want to do this? I think I'm going to do this as two separate textures, because this is a nice contained texture, and this is a nice. So I think what I'm going to do is, do I want to see if I can figure out how to export this layer information? Let's see if I can do it. So what I want to do is I'm going to make, actually what I'll do is I'll take and, so I'm going to do a couple things to this. I'm going to give this some parameters so I can say what image I want this to point to. So basically I'm gonna take this from a rock material. I think what I'm gonna do, yes, I'm gonna take this from a rock material to a just kind of like a more general triplanar material, right? Where you can plug in your albedo, your AO, your roughness, your height, and it will, it'll do its thing. So to do that, if I can move all of these at one time. Probably should have made this a parameter. Oh well. We'll deal with that later. Okay, so I need to start to kind of make this more user-friendly. So for my texture maps, I'm going to need parameters. So I'm going to say, I'm going to make a parameter. This is going to be a file, and this parameter is going to be called AO bitmap. You can call it anything. I'm going to call it AO bitmap, and the label is going to be called AO texture. Okay, so if I go back out now, I should see we have this AO bitmap here, AO texture, right? But that's not connected to anything. So I can click this and I can say, go get my AO texture there. So I'm going to do this for all of my texture maps. So this guy, I'm going to open this guy up again. Bang. Much real estate going on. Okay, so I'm gonna take and let's grab that path. So it's just gonna look for that. I'm gonna say file default is gonna go to that because that's just fine. So this AO bitmap is going to go into all of my textures, right? So this guy is called xpause map. So xpause map. So it's going to go into there. And I need to stop rendering or I break something. Xpause map. This is ypause map. And this is going to go into zpause map. Okay. So that'll allow the user to control the AO overall. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this to my other parts. So I'm going to hold down Alt and drag this down here. This is going to be albedo. So let's open this up. So I'm going to do the same thing. Xpause map. Ypause map. And zpause map. And then I need to remember to change that to AL bed O. AL. So I'm going to shrink this guy down. And a lot of this work, if it seems unsexy, it is. Like, this is what a lot of computer graphics is, right? Especially when you get to this level. Like, it's just, it's making stuff. Like, it's like going, meh. I need to plug this thing in here. One of the best pieces of advice I got when I was starting out. Thank you. I'm overly particular about my network organization. Probably too much. So I probably waste too much time doing network stuff. But one of the best pieces of advice that was given to me at a very early time in my career was one of the things that makes a really good computer graphics artist is the ability to consistently do the same thing over and over and over again, to maintain focus while doing a mundane task over and over again. Now that sounds really stupid because you're like, oh, that's what computers are for. But a lot of computer graphics is just this. It's like just plugging stuff in and making sure stuff works. And it's a good skill to have. Oh, thank you, John. It's a kind of, sometimes it's kind of like a thankless thing. Okay, so albedo. So I'm gonna hold down Alt and do the same thing for here. Can I unfurl this? Weird. It'll let me collapse everything, but it won't uncollapse stuff. That's kind of annoying. Anyways, no biggie. Okay, so this guy, I'm gonna make sure I copy this normal data. Normal. Normal. Pause map, and pause map. Okay, and then we have our height, which is here. Oh no, this is that's our height here. This is our roughness here. That. And this is going to be roughness. Copied on my default, and then once again, there we go. So that opens, and then we can say same thing. So X pause map, Y pause map, and I can actually hold down Shift and make another one of these and go to Z pause map. So we'll collapse that as well. And then last one is going to be our height. So one more time, whap, goes down there. This is going to be height. And let's open this up. Close that down. Okay, So let's hit render again and see. Pray to the CG gods that I haven't shattered all my hard work from last time. And cool, yeah, we're in business. Okay, so I'm gonna stop this. Okay, the other things that I want to do while I'm at this, I'm gonna go ahead and do a displacement bound property and probably an offset and effects scale as well for my displacement. So let's do that. So let's do tab parameter. So this will be displacement disbound. Bound. That should be a float. Its value should be default value. I'll put it 1. It's fine. Okay, and then as well, I'm gonna do offset and actually, you know what? I don't even have to do that. I can actually middle click on this and say promote parameter, and so that'll just turn that into a parameter for me. I forgot about that. So I can do, let's see, where is it? Offset, right click, promote parameter. It's a little fiddly sometimes. Promote parameter and scale as well, effect scale, promote parameter, there. And all that's doing is just a convenience function. If I double click on this, it's just doing what I was doing by hand, right? So if I do that again, delete that, promote parameter. So it just puts, it's like a little, it's just like a little convenience function. So if I come up, so now I have my UVs. So I have all these so I have my AO texture, my albedo texture. Why do I have 2 albedo textures? I need to change the name of that. Oh, I need to change the name of my my labels there. So I have my effect scale and then my displacement bound as well. So let's go and I forgot to change the names of those. So let's see. This is AO map, AO texture, albedo map. This should be normal. This should be rough. Should be height. Yeah, so I have AO, albedo, normal, roughness, height, displacement effect scale, and displacement bound. So, yeah, I really haven't either. I think I watched, there's like one masterclass on how to do this, and they kind of gloss over it. Most people are just like, use the principal shader. And in all practicality, yeah, I technically should probably be using the principal shader. It's all pretty and it's all hooked up and it's got all that stuff. It's basically got everything you need in it. But for an educational kind of like, you know, to deepen my knowledge of the system, I wanted to try to build as many of these kind of like shaders on my own in this project. So it's a little bit slower. I probably wouldn't do this in production. Like if somebody's like, here's this ready-made thing, use it. It's going to save us time, which is going to save us money. Yeah, but like if that thing breaks, or if I needed to do something that it didn't account for, I really find comfort knowing that I can build stuff myself from pretty much from nothing, or I can modify, or if I know enough about it, then I can modify the kind of like the supplied tool to do what I wanted to. Yeah. So this is my stone material, and then the last thing I think I need to do I need to remember how to do this, is I need to export my layer information. And I think that's a bind. Because I want to eventually layer these two things. I want a layer of moss, and I want a layer of stone. Actually, you know what? I think I'm just gonna. I'll just do it all. Yeah, I'll do it all in here. We'll just make this very specific shader, which is fine. It's kind of old school. Like, this is how people used to write some very, very specific shaders for very specific tasks. So it's kind of a little bit of a throwback. That's okay. I'm okay with that. There we go. Once again, just organizing my graphs too much. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to I want to layer in a shader on top of this. So let's just test how to do this first. So what I want is, how am I going to do this? I'm just going to use a principal shader core for now, because I want to deal with the mechanism. Before I do anything else. Actually, you know what? No, that's still way too big. That's too much. Let's do a. I'm gonna do a metal, just so I can see it. So basically, what I want is I want moss to grow on this thing, and I'm gonna design the system that places the moss before I actually make the moss. Right? That's generally what I do first. I make it work, and then I make it pretty. So I'm gonna make another PBR. We're going to do BSDFs. I'm going to do PBR metallic. Yeah, because this has a base and a color. And so there's like this layer here. So what I can do is I can do a mix. So I can do so I'm going to type in mix. And there's this layer mix. And that's what this is. So I have an A and a B and an alpha here. Did I start with one of the materials? No, actually, I built this from, I started with a material builder, which basically has this stuff and that stuff. Like, it has, and actually I'll color the ones that it gave me, just so we can see it. So let's make those blue. Something a little bit brighter. Yeah, these pink ones, those are the ones that it started with. We built everything else on our own last time. So just little bit by little bit by little bit by little bit. And this is the scary thing about node-based systems. Like, you see this and you're like, oh my god, I'll never be able to do that. And it's not like I was like, press one button and it made all that stuff. You build it up piece by piece by piece by piece. You solve each individual problem on its own. So the problem I'm solving now is how to layer in materials. So I'm gonna make this just because I like it. I'm gonna make a goldish material. Yeah, that's good enough. Yeah. So I'm going to take this layer and we're going to plug that we're just going to negate all the stuff that we did previously. And we'll hit render, and this guy should turn into like a goldish, hopefully metallic looking thing. Yeah, cool. Perfect. So I'm still getting that displacement as well on top, that actually looks really cool, but not what I was going for. But that's cool. So what I want to do is I'm going to take yeah, I'm going to take A, layer into A, layer into B, and then I'll take this output layer and plug that into layer here. So right now this is at 0.5, so I should be getting half rock, half gold. Yeah, cool. So I'm getting about half and half. So I'm kind of getting a shiny rock looking. And actually that looks kind of cool. Happy accidents. But that's not what I was going for. So if I go to 0, I should get, I believe, A. And 1 will give me Yeah, 1 will give me B. So 0, 1. Okay? So now I need to, and that's in my alpha, right? So I need to figure out a way to just get the upward facing pixels, right? So one way that I can do this, and I think I can do this with, I'm going to do this with a planar projection. So we've been using triplanar projections, which project from 3 different spaces. What I'm going to do is just do a planar projection, which just does like straight down, or straight left, or straight right. So that's going to be a planar project. And I'm going to stop this rendering. And what the planar project does is it just does like what it does one side of a triplanar projection. So let's see. UV offset axis, y-axis. Let's see, positive axis, scale. Scales the generated UVs. Angle turns the UVs, negative axis. Cool. Okay, so I should have so I got a mask that's coming out of here. Positive mask, negative mask. So that should give me a black and white information, which I can plug into my alpha. And let's render this again. So I should see gold facing on the upward facing surfaces. Yeah, whoop whoop, there we go. There we go. So we can see, I think this is working. Or actually, I'm getting gold on my downward facing surfaces. So, and this is why I do this with very explicit materials, so I can see exactly what's going on. So it looks like I either need to invert my mask or invert my my shaders. So I think I'm gonna invert my shader. So I'm gonna take so I'll stop this rendering and cut this. I'm going to have my gold go into B and my layer go into A. Yeah, there we go. So now this is sitting on my upward facing faces. Sweet. Cool. So now what I can do, let's say that, okay, so this, let's see, positive UV, negative mask. So this is, it looks like it's spitting out UV data. So it's making a UV information that's pointing upwards. So I can use this for a mask. Yeah, I'll just use this for just the mask. So what I'll do is I'll replace this PBR metallic with a setup that's a lot like this. So this diffuse, this reflection, and so on and so forth. Yeah, and I think I'm gonna do this outside of the shader, because I'm gonna go back to making another triplanar projection shader, and then I will blend those two together. But the theory is sound. The theory is sound. So I'm gonna go back to, like I always say, there's very, very rarely straight lines between when you're trying to figure out how to do something. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to be able to come out here, and I need to take a stone, so I need to have like a stone material and then a moss material, and you can do that same thing. So I can say layer mix out here. Right, so I can do the same thing. Like I can have this, and I believe I can even do a planar project. Yeah. So I can do that same setup just outside of here. And I can assign that layer mix to there. So let's try to do this outside. But first, I need to go back to doing what I was doing before. So I need to try to export this layer information. So I need to get it out of this side here. So I believe that is a bind export. And it's export underscore layer. And oh man, I forget how I did this before. Was it a property? No. Parameter? No. Parameter. Property? No, it wasn't a property. What was that called? Can't remember. So I am going to go to the documentation. Let's go. Show help me thing. Layer export. Here we go. Add. No, I think it's building shaders, perhaps. I always forget layering shaders. So this is what I'm trying to get to. Let's, close this. can't get to my can't find my help. Maybe start here. No. I rarely ever look at the help, which is sad. Quick tip, online support, show help pane. There we go. So let's do go all the way down to nodes. Nope. Rendering materials. And I remember it was in building materials. There we go. How do you add a layer output to a custom material? Bang. All right. So in the layer material, generate a layer struct. This node generates a BRSDF that you may already output already. You can create a layer struct from parts such as F output using a layer pack VOP. Create 2 parameter VOPs. Okay. Struct. I think that's what I was looking for. This is type. Ah, that's what it is. Type. And I need to make this type, believe it's struct. Let's see. Layer pack. Okay, so this is going to build a layer pack out of a non-PBR layer, but I already have this, so I don't really need that. Struct, create 2 parameter VOPs. On both set the name, same name value layer. Type struct. So this is what I always find really, really confusing, and I think this is why a lot of people don't do this. So it's let's see, name both layer. I think I need to do export layer, actually, but we'll figure that out. So this layer, struct. Let me make sure I'm making the correct VOP here. Yeah, parameter VOP, exactly. Cool. So I usually have this written down in a notebook, and I lost my notebook. So don't lose your notebook. So actually what I'm going to do, instead of fiddling around with this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and make, let's delete this. And we're going to delete this layer pack. Instead of you watching me read a bunch of stuff, which is super boring, I'm just going to go ahead and use, I'm going to duplicate this texture, and I'm going to use these guys to make a moss texture overall. And then I'll figure out how to do this layer struct stuff, and then we'll layer them together. I'll show you how to build this up in the next one. So I'm going to cut my losses. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, the beauty of this is I've done all this work, I've made all this stuff, right? So I'm going to say, I'm just going to hold down Alt and drag this, and I'm going to call this moss mat. And eventually I'll probably make these into HDAs. So for my, let's see, for my head and that material, so I'm going to take and replace stone mat with moss mat. So it should pretty much be exactly the same thing as I have before. Okay, cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start replacing these AO, albedo, normal, roughness, height with this with the moss textures that I downloaded before. So we're just gonna I'm gonna stop this, and so let's do that. So we're gonna do ivy, silver, moss. So I'm on moss, AO. I'm gonna do moss albedo. Moss normal. Moss roughness. And moss height. Okay, so let's render that and see what it looks like. Don't be disheartened, John. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I love this. I love the saying. It's a really good saying. It's "Still seas don't make good sailors," and I really, really believe that. You know, if everything is easy, you're never gonna learn anything. So yeah, so there. So very quickly, I've been able to change my rocks into mosses. Now, once I get the layer structs working, I can blend those together. The reason I'm choosing to do this outside is if I want to do it inside, I would have to take that entire kind of structure that I made for the triplanar projection. I'm gonna have to duplicate that. So yeah. So I think as well. So I'm probably gonna want a. I have my FX scale here, so I can put that. So let's say it's a little bit too bumpy for my moss, so like maybe 0.5. It is all about the course corrections, indeed. So this is actually looking pretty good for, just swapping out textures. So let's go back to like 0.75. Yeah, so I actually like that. That's looking really good. It's looking really good. So I'll layer that in the next stream. And I've done a huge no-no. I have not saved yet. Bad, Brian. Very bad. So I'll save that. So I'm going to go back to my stone material for now. And we're going to render that. So that'll look really cool once that's kind of like in those crevices and like on those upward facing bits on this face. It'll make it look really old and like kind of like overly overgrown, which is really cool. I think that's gonna look really, really dope. Okay, next thing. So I have my stone, I have my moss. The next thing is gonna be, I think I'm gonna work on the grass. So for now, I'm going to hide my head in my standing stones, and we're going to bring back my short grass and see what that renders like. So right now there's no material on this, so I predict this is going to be like little strips in space. So I'll have to add a width attribute to this whole thing. Yeah, so it's rendering as like these little kind of strips overall. So let's see. So I'm packing and instancing these. So I don't think I want to do that just yet. And let's see, why did... So let's look at what's going on here. So I'm going to copy, transform. Okay. So it looks like I'm getting some color from my points over here. Yeah, so my points have a color attribute which is overriding my grass. So for this, for my copy, I don't want to copy CD either. So it's all this stuff that it's not going to copy, and I'm going to say not CD as well. Okay, so I got my color back now. So so I will eventually pack all of these into their own individual points, but I want to do some editing of the width attribute, because right now, if I look at this, let's see, do I have a width attribute? No. It's just giving me a general width attribute. So I can control the width of each one of these little blades of grass by, let's just put down an attribute expression. I'm running out of real estate, so I'm going to close this browser. I'll figure out what's going on with that later. And I'm just going to say custom, and this is a float, and I'm going to say width, I believe. And I'm going to set this to value. And as soon as I do this, I should get this guy to come on. So I'm going to set this to 1. And as soon as I plug this into here, we should see, yeah, my grass gets huge, right? So as I start to play around with this width, right, I can make really thin grass, or I can make really thick grass. So one thing I do want to do is say 0.5, not 0.5, 0.05. So since this is grass, I want it to taper, right? I want it, grass gets thick at the bottom and then it tapers at the top. So what I can do is I can make what's called a U attribute. And a U attribute on a curve, where's my little, like if I have a curve, a U attribute goes from 0 to 1. So I can say be this thick at the base and be this thick at the tip, and then taper inwards like that. Right? So this can be my width attribute. So I'm going to set a base width here. And let's clear that. All right. So I have this this is my overall width, just showing how that mechanism works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down a resample node. And the resample node has this really, really handy function. I don't want to change anything. So I don't want to change so I'm going to say turn off maximum length and segment lengths. But what I am going to turn on, I'm going to turn on this curve U. So with this curve U, and I think I already did that. I may have already done that up high. Oh, I already have a curve U that I built up here. Yeah, so I don't need to build this again. It's fine. It already works. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that curve U and I'm going to do a remap value to that curve U. So I'm going to say remap value, attribute remap. Plug this into here. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to stop this rendering just so I can see it, so I don't crash anything. So my original name is going to be curve U. My new name is going to be width. So output min 0, output max is 1, output min, output max. So if we plug this in and let this render, I should get small at the bottom, big at the top. We'll see. Yeah, so small at the bottom, big at the top. So let's invert this, swap that. And let's bring our max, so our output min is 0. So our output max, let's bring that down to like that 0.05 like we had before. And the cool thing about this is there's no shader applied to this. Like, this is just Houdini doing what it does, which is really cool. So my output max, let's go 0.08 for the grass. A little bit more coverage. Okay. The other thing about grass is, and this is what I really love about Houdini, is like I'm not even using a shader to do this. Like, it's all geometry attributes, which is bonkers cool. So I'm gonna save this. Okay, so that's my width attribute. The other thing I could do is I could vary. So right now, all of their widths are exactly the same, right? So what I could do, so I want to vary per blade of grass. Can we really need programming knowledge? Programming knowledge always helps. Anytime anybody asks me that, my answer is going to be yes. When you can think, like, when I mean, you don't have to know, like, C++ or C sharp, know, like, oh, this comma goes there and that semicolon goes there. When I think of programming, I think of, like, problem solving. How to programming teaches you how to problem solve in a step-by-step, in a logical manner. I feel like so many people don't get into computer graphics or don't get into computers because they think that like programming is just this big ethereal thing that only super geniuses can do. So how can you learn? So you can go on Skillshare. I think one of the best, the two languages for I feel like computer graphics artists should learn would be C# and Python, especially Python. Python, you can use Python in Houdini. You can use Python in Maya. I believe you can use Python in Nuke. You can. I don't know if there's a scripting API for the Substance tools, but definitely Python has saved me so many times. And it's a really friendly language. It doesn't have a lot of. What's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't have a lot of syntax, right? So you don't have to put a lot of semicolons and stuff. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to add more randomization to this because it's like it still looks kind of CG because they're all exactly the same color and they're all exactly the same width. Python and C# is what I would recommend. So how I can do that is I can add variation per point and I can use that down here later. Okay, so just like I can randomize my color and things like that, I can randomize my my width. So let's see. Should I just use? I'm just gonna make a it's like a number, like just a number that I can run into a random number generator after the fact. Yeah. Okay. So, and this is where you kind of start to diverge away from like the canned Houdini stuff when you really actually are going to start to get into a fair bit of Vex code, but it's not too much. All right. So what I want to do is I want to generate a random number based on the point number, right? Because if I look here, right, I just have these points. So I'm going to make a random value based on that point number. So I'm going to say, let's do attribute expression. I'm going to call this custom. It's going to be we'll do it as a float. That's fine. And we'll call this a rand. And that rand is going to be a random of our lm num. Or actually, I think I can just do pt num. So what a random function does is it gives me a random number between 0 and 1. Once again, 0 and 1, super, super powerful. So, yes, vex, expressions. So it gives me a random number between 0 and 1 based on the seed, which is the number. So here I get, so I have 4.04, 0.02. So things that are closer to 0 are going to be darker. Things that are closer to 1 are going to be brighter. Okay, so if I plug that into my copy, that should come through. So here I've got this rand. So I have 5 points per strand here. So this is the same number. So it's basically it's basically taking that seed and stretching that rand across each individual blade of grass. So now what I can do is I can play with that, right? So I have my base width. So what I can do now is actually what I'll do is I'll plug this in here, and I'll use that width. So I'll say width, and that, instead of just value, I'm going to say width. I'm going to say self, which is the width, plus equals. So it's going to add to itself. So it's going to take whatever that value is, and then going to add to it. I'm going to do a ramp parameter. So I'm going to make a ch ramp. And what this is going to make is going to make one of those little squares with the spline in the middle of it. So I'm going to say ch ramp. I'm going to call this width add. That is going to take at random, or rand. So if I plug this in, so right now this is returning 0. So now I'm adding like 1 here. So some of my, oh, I need to flip this over. So some of them should be quite large, and some of them should be rather small. Yeah, there we go. So what I'm going to do actually now is I'm also going to take, and I will do, I'll just do a multiplier to just knock it down, times value. Yeah, so now some of them are a little bit fatter and some of them are a little bit smaller. So I'm still going between kind of 0 and 1. No, I think that's okay. That's giving it a little bit of a, it's giving a little bit of zhuzh in there. Like that. Okay, so that's that. So I can keep using this rand. So the other thing I can do is I can make some of these. Yeah. Like for this type of stuff, you have to use the render view. Like you can't see it in the scene view. Which is why I'm like, my computer's pretty beefy. If it's not, like use the shift and drag and just kind of look at just like one little section. I should probably be doing that anyway. So the other thing I want to do is I want to make some of these brighter and some of these darker. So I can do the same thing. So I'm going to do another attribute expression. So this I'm going to bring into CD. So I'm going to say self times rand, at rand. So the random values that are closer to 1, like we'll leave that color. They're darker when it's closer to 0. It'll get darker. So let's plug that in. So we should see everything darken down a bit. Yeah. So these guys, this guy's a little bit darker than that guy, which is a little bit darker than that guy, which is a little bit darker than that guy. So it just visually, like your brain is like, ooh, more variation. That looks more like more believable overall. And I think I like the color that this is coming out with anyway. Cool, great. So now what I'm gonna do is I want to pack. When I want to do like I did with my trees, I want to pack each one of these little strands into memory. Because right now this is a huge file. It's 2.5 gigabytes of memory, and that's just my grass. That's way, way, way too high. Especially for the other stuff that I'm planning on putting in here. I'm planning on putting some fog. I got to bring back the heads and the stones, and like it's going to get really big really fast. So I'm going to pack this down into packed primitives. Actually, what I want to do, do I want to put that? Actually, I am going to put a material on this as well. So I think I can just get away with a quick material because I'm not going to map this at all. So I'm going to do a quick material. And let's see. So it's not metallic. I don't want to tint it. I really just need my roughness. I really just wanted to control my roughness overall. So grass is quite shiny. I could also do maybe some translucency or some subsurface scattering, but because they're so low to the ground and they're so tightly packed, I don't think I'll really get much out of that, and it'll send my calculation through the roof. There is a bit of height variance in there anyway. If we look here, we have a little bit of height variance as well. So we have some patches, so you can kind of see it here. Like there's density and height patchiness because you're so low to the ground. It's really, really hard to see. I could try to push it a little bit more, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. So it looks like I lost most of my specularity, so I'm gonna bring this down. Do 1.5 IOR. Actually, I might like it without the quick material. I'll be getting better specularity out of that. Yeah, I think I like it without the material. Okay, so there's that. So I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to turn my other stuff, because it's always good to check what everything looks like together. So I'm going to turn on my head, my standing stones, and run this again. And see how much this jumps up. I still need to pack that grass. That's what I was going to do. The quick material node, it is a convenience node that just kind of packs together like what we're doing in here, and it just puts it into the geometry context. So this is looking pretty good. I'm liking where this is going. This looks pretty awesome. This is looking really nice. I like how it's kind of breaking up where they kind of set into the ground. It's breaking up where this guy sets into the ground. So it's not just like that hard line where it's just like crashing through the ground. So I'm going to go back into my short grass, and I'm going to stop this. I'm going to run what's called an assemble. Now, generally, you'll see this used in with rigid bodies, but what all it does is it looks at everything that's connected, and then it packs that thing into memory so that you can save some memory. So create name attribute. I don't need this connected. I just want to create packed tree. So let's plug that in there, and we'll render this and see what that does. So hopefully, so yeah, like my memory, like hopefully this it'll keep my my point color. Yeah, so it dropped my memory by about half a gigabyte, which doesn't seem like much, but in the long run, it's very, very nice. Anywhere where you can squeeze some extra information. So if I go before my packed, I have almost 6 million points. After my pack, I have almost just a few under 1 million points. So each one of these guys is going to get packed and put into memory. So that's really handy. Not seeing it. Oh, so if you want the labs nodes, you have to install them, and it's super easy to install the labs nodes. Let me stop this render. You just need to go to, where is it? Where is it? Yeah, here we go. So you should have a side effects labs tab, and you just click this update toolset, and it'll go. It's like you don't have to do anything. It will go. Well, you have to have an internet connection, which obviously you do because you're talking to me right now, right? So you click that button, it'll fetch the information from their servers, and it'll install it into your local copy of Houdini, and you have this huge suite of really, really nice convenience tools at your fingertips. It's very, very slick, very well done. Okay. So there are some object level nodes. There's some SOP level geometry nodes. I think there's even some dynamic nodes, but mostly most of the stuff is in SOPs. Okay, so I got my grass, I got my stones, I have a moss, so it's kind of starting to come together. Okay, what else do I have in here? So I have some tall grass. Oh, I totally forgot my vines. Let's work on those. Jesus. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna see if I can get away with just the curves for my vines, and if I can't, then I'll actually use the geometry. So let's turn these guys on. So just like I did before, so I can save time, I'm gonna turn off my head and my stones and my short grass. So I just want to see what that looks like in isolation, and then I'll bring everything else back. Okay, so let's render that. Okay, so these are the curves for my vines, which are huge. So because I probably have that width attribute on them. Okay, so let's look at. Let's see, did I build? I need to see where I built that attribute. Almost looks like fur. That's strange. so let's see. I brought in my curves. I made a color, did a sweep. So my color is based on curve U. And I deleted in orient up in P scale. Okay, so I think what I'll do is I'm gonna move this guy to just my, stop this rendering. So I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna go to my vines. And at the end here, I give these guys color. And I'm also going to give this a width. Because it's clearly grabbing curve U. Yeah, it's grabbing curve U. Yeah, cool. All right. So there's my color, and then I'll give it same thing as I did before. I can probably actually just steal that work I did on the grass. This is the other great thing about node-based systems, is that you can steal parts from other parts. If you solve it once, you can take that solution and move it over to somewhere else. So let's see, vine curves and V, plug that in. And in there. Let's see what that gives us. Yeah, I'm not mad at that. I am not mad at that at all. That looks pretty dope. I kind of want them to be a little bit thinner. So let's do 4. Maybe one's a little bit too thin. You can barely even see them. So let's do 2. And this is a really low resolution image as well. So it's 640 by 380. So I'm not going to be able to see a lot of this at this resolution. But that looks super creepy. That looks really creepy. So I'm gonna turn my head back on just so I can see it in context. Okay, so if I go back to my vine curves, maybe let's go back up to, let's say 0.1. Let's just see. Yeah, so they're really thick down here and really thin as it crawls across. Actually, I like that a lot. I'm okay with this. I like this because we can still see like it's like really thick down here where like there would be like it would be like really wet and lush, and then up here, right, it would have like these vines and they would get thinner and thinner and thinner as they get away from the kind of like their source of nutrients. I like that. That works really well. And once again, I don't even need, like, I'm not even using a shader for this. It's just the point colors and the default shader, and it's so small, I don't really need a lot of variation. My variation is coming from my, just a massive amount of geometry. So I'm not getting complexity through imagery and shading, I'm getting complexity through geometric complexity, which is really cool. Okay, so let's go back up and let's turn on the standing stones. Let's turn on, let me stop this before something breaks, and I'm going to save this. Let's turn on the standing stones, and we'll turn on our short grass as well and see where we're at. I might go ahead and pack those vines as well. Oh yeah, that's looking great. Like that green is connecting. Like it's not like it's such a harsh disconnect now. So it's like this lush and it's like kind of like coming up over the head. It's really thick here and then it kind of gets thin as it gets higher. This is also making me want to, maybe I want to push a little bit closer to the head. I'm not really sure what I want to do with that just yet, but we'll figure that out. Let's just look at just this section here. Oh, thanks, John. I love doing this stuff. Like it's like I'm not an expert in anything by any means, but what I do have is I have experience, and I learned. I don't know who. I'm sure somebody told me to do this. I learned theory when I was I'm mostly self-taught in this area, especially in Houdini. But I learned theory. I learned as much theory as I could, mostly because I was broke and I couldn't afford software. So I did all the all the book knowledge that I could. Well, my machine is really fast, but I'm also only rendering at 640 by 360. So this is a really, really small image. I'm rendering really at a really low resolution. So, but it is. I did spend the money on getting. I'm an adult now. I can afford a really nice machine, and I use it literally every day. So, save up your money, spend the money, put your money where it really counts. Okay, yeah, this is looking good. I like this. Okay, so I think the vines are good. The grass doesn't really need a shader. And so let's bring in our leaves and see what that looks like. These are so small. Let's see what these give us. And actually, what I'm going to do for my vine leaf. Did I already pack these? Yeah, I already packed an instance those. So once again, anytime you're going to repeat something over and over and over again, you definitely want to pack it. Yeah, and I'm getting the multiple different types of leaves on there. So let's have a run at that, see what that looks like. And I may extend this vine setup to my standing stones, because after seeing this, like, these feel really bare without any leaves or anything like that on them. So we'll see what we get out of that. So let's see. So, violating my own rules. I'm going to turn off my curves and turn off my standing tones and my short grass and my head, just so I can see just my leaves and see what they're doing. Theories in what area? Like general, like general computer graphics. Like what? Like how does how does color work? Right? What does RGB stand for? Like really? Like how do those things combined together? Like matrix math, like what is an identity matrix, what's a rotation matrix, what's a transformation matrix, like all the stuff that you were like, I don't want to learn about this, I just want to make cool pictures. Like that stuff goes into making cool pictures. Learn math, like really, like learn the, like, don't learn like number shuffling. Learn like what math means. Like what does a vector look like? What does what does a matrix look like? What is it? How do you visualize these things in your head? That's what all of this is. It's just vectors in direction and rotation. And if you can't control that stuff, then I think this is the biggest hurdle when people are trying to learn Houdini. It was definitely my biggest hurdle because I didn't pay attention in math class. I said out loud, I was like, I will never use this in real life. And now I use it every single day. So if you're in high school and you're watching this, pay attention in trigonometry and linear algebra if you want to get into this game. It will help you immensely. It basically turns you into a CG wizard. Yeah, so I should just have just my leaves. I need to see why they are not showing up. Why is everything rendering? There we go. Okay. So my leaves are not really showing up very well. I want to switch this from Object Cam to Scene View. Would that be Scene View 1? Yeah, Scene View. So let's get kind of close to these so I can see what's going on. Getting a little bit too aggressive with my clickety clicks. Right, cool. So we're gonna stop this. So it doesn't look like I'm getting any surface data here. So let's look at our leaves. Ah, okay. So I think I know why. So if I look at my inlib for my leaves, and I look at my, so I have this shop material path. Now this is one of the weird things about, so this is coming from my UV quick shade in my leaf material. So in my leaf lib. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my leaf lib and there's this UV quick material, this UV quick shade. I use that as a kind of a diagnostic thing. So I'm going to replace that with an actual, I'm going to use the labs quick material. So I can actually leave that up there because it'll just replace this shop material path. So I'm going to do a labs. I'm going to use that quick material. Can I plug that in there? And so what this will allow me to do is it'll allow me to use all the extra texture. So all that stuff, like all the my normal and my roughness textures. And so we can see it just replaces that shop material path. So that's one path, and now it's another. So this is what tells the system what material is attached to what. So I'm going to go get those normal maps. So I'm going to say, I think I did, what was it called? Let's look at which one I used. That's IV01 152 albedo. Okay. So normal map, so color, base color, is going to be IV textures, leaves. Yeah, there we go. IV, so that's going to be my, should be albedo. Normal. So small, I might not know, probably won't even see that. And my roughness. And I don't have it in metallic texture. Okay. So, cool. So there's that. So that gives me that full things, but it's like it's still coming out white, and this drove me insane when I first started. I was like, oh, why would I use packing if I lose all my material textures? Until someone explained to me actually how packing works, and there's like a really good documentation on it. Go read it; it's amazing. But overall, this is how packing works. When you pack something, so let's say you have this object, and it's got, you know, X amount of points on it. Okay. What Houdini does, and let's say it has also a shader attached to it. We'll say this is our shader. What Houdini does is it takes that entire package and puts it in a little box and puts it in memory. Okay, so when Houdini goes to render this, it renders the box and it renders the geometry. It doesn't look inside of the box for the shader. So I have to tell Houdini to do this, or else it won't do it. It's because it's an optimization thing. So I need to go to my out context. Actually, I don't even have to do that. I can do it straight from here. So I can go to my mantra. I can select this, and that'll bring up my mantra options. And I always forget where this is because I have to do it. So maybe it's in render. And I might actually have to change the objects. Nope. It's not driver. Images. Here we go. So under render, declare materials. It says save only reference materials and shaders. So what I want to do is say save all materials and shaders. I believe that should give me, tell it to reach down into that that pack primitive and actually render the color. I believe they've changed the name of this a few times. It used to be called declare all shops. It used to be called save all shops. So I'm not really sure what they're calling it in 18. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Dope. So remember, in mantra, render, declare materials, save all materials and shaders, and that will tell it to go down and look into that shader. Okay, so let's go back to scene view. Actually, we're going to shot cam. Actually, looking at this now, he feels a little bit too overgrown. Like I can't even see the stone underneath. Yeah, this is way too overgrown. So I need to prune that down a fair bit. But that's pretty cool. Like I've completely covered this object in vines and ivy. So it's a little bit too much right now. So I want to thin this out a little bit. So let's see. In my vine leaf, let's see. I'm coming in. I'm grabbing my leaf lib and I'm grabbing my curves here. And my copy to points. Yeah, I'm not doing any target points here. So I don't have, I'm not doing any target points in my, how much RAM do I have on my PC? I think I have 16 gigs. I know it's more than 8. It's either 16 or 32. I can't remember. If I can look it up later. But it's a beefy machine. You can look it up. It's it's an Asus ProArt Studio Book. Yeah, so that's the type of PC I'm using. I just bought it, I think, the end of last year. Okay, cool. So that's all rendered, and it's way too dense. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into here, and I'm going to make a group to copy onto. So I'm going to say, let's look at, so these are my wires. And let's stop this. So I'm going to make a group. So I'm going to say group expression. And there's this handy dandy, so I'm going to say 30% chance. Haha. Bang. I'm going to call this seed. Okay, so I'm only going to grow 30% of my leaves. So my copy to points, if I come down in here, I'm going to say target points is going to be seed. So now I've thinned it out by about 30%. Now if I take this and I start moving this, let's say 10% of points. Oh, I did primitives. I need points. There we go. There we go. A little bit thinner. Let's do 20%. Let's do 10%. That's fine. I mean, if you only have 8, you just have to work a little bit smarter, right? So you can see even when I'm working on one part, like I turn off everything else, and then I check it to see in context. So you can work. You can 8 gigs is a lot, especially with like when you factor in like kind of like this packing and instancing idea. You know, you can do a lot of damage. I worked with an 8-bit computer for like 10 years, and I still did pretty good work. So don't let your technology or your hardware limit your creativity. In fact, maybe you have to be more creative because you have less resources. It's well documented that the more constrained you are in your resources and the things that you can do, the more creative you become. So don't let that discourage you. Yeah, that's much better. Okay, so got those little ivy leaves peppered around. So let's go ahead and let's stop this and let's turn on our. So I'm not using my vine geometry. I'm not using my least lib. That's all utility. I'm going to use my curves. I'm going to use my head, my standing stones, and my short grass. So everything's turned on. I'm going to save this before I let this rip. Yeah, it's such a difference. And maybe, like, this may look too dense because I'm seeing both sides. So that's why I'm turning on the head to see it in context with everything else. Oh no, that looks great. Yeah, I'll definitely add that kind of setup to these standing stones. I might not do the crawling thing. I might just have them go straight up and down. So I might show you how you can do that using that same setup. The drop down in the the presets, those are godsends, man. Yeah, so I'm really liking where this is going. This looks really good. Like, it's breaking up this kind of like perfect head. I'm gonna get some moss in there, so it'll have like this kind of upward facing darkness as well. I haven't done anything with my lighting, and I still haven't done anything with my trees or any other types of extra vegetation. So I want to add some small ground bushes in here and maybe some tall grass, stuff like that, to kind of break up the monotony of just. I might even make this grass a little bit smaller, so because like grass is like really like this big, and this grass is like really tall. Like if you remember when I put a human-sized figure in, the grass was about to here, so it's really tall. So I might make this really small. and then put some bigger kind of different types of bushes, maybe some clover leaves and some ferns and stuff, just to break up the kind of like the sea of repetition overall. And then I also have my trees. I'm thinking maybe I'll put some. I kind of want to make this like a night-looking-ish scene, having like some god rays coming in through here, and maybe some fireflies, just to give it some life, like buzzing around just above like this kind of grassy plain. So still a lot of work to do, but I made some pretty good progress. And then also getting this layer stuff working overall is the next priority. So I'll do that research in between the streams. And actually, you know what? Let's just go ahead. I got about 7 minutes left. I'm just going to go ahead and turn on my trees, even though they don't have any materials on them, just to see what the whole-ish scene will look like eventually. And these things are really, really heavy. There are my trees overall, so let's just go ahead and render this and see what it looks like. How many videos have I done? I think this is the 4th or 5th one. Like I originally, this was actually an accident, to be completely honest. I started with just like Vine, just how to make vines and stuff, and it just kind of like steamrolled and like kind of fell into this. And a lot of people were. It's weird. Like everybody was asking me about doing environment art, and now everybody's asking me about doing character art, because I did a robot character, and then I did robot character, and then I did the little Buddha, and then people were like, oh, how would you make a bigger scene? And so that's what this became. Wow, this is looking really good with those trees in the background. It's a little sparse over here, but I like this. And the trees don't even have any bark texture on them yet, and it's still looking pretty good. Cool. Yes, John, I will save. I'm going to save as soon as the stream is done, and as soon as this is done, it looks like it's going to take about 10 minutes to render. And so yeah, that's the stream for today. Had a little foible in the middle. Sorry, I had a little brain fart. Couldn't figure out how to get those layers out. But that's that's working, right? Like sometimes things don't work. Sometimes you got to go and look at some documentation. Sometimes you need to go ask a friend. Yeah. So I'm gonna keep working on this until I kind of think it's done. It's getting close. It's getting much closer. I'm really, especially with these trees. Like these trees in here, really, really kind of sell it. I think I'm gonna change my framing just a little bit. Maybe I'll push in, because I've done so much work on this. It's a shame to kind of be this far away from it. So yeah, trees look good. I'm liking where the trees are going. They look pretty nice. I need to get some bark texture on these guys, just to break up this kind of like solid color a little bit. And yeah, it's looking. I'm liking where this is going. I can't wait to see the full thing rendered. This is going to take like a couple hours to render this guy, or maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, thanks for coming. Like I said, I'm Bryan Bentley. I'm the department head of modeling at CG Spectrum. If you want to learn more about us, we teach Maya, we teach ZBrush, we teach Houdini, we teach Nuke, we teach Photoshop. It's all over the shop. So if you're into computer graphics, come check us out. Take one of our classes. You'll be paired up with one of our amazing mentors. So I will see you guys next week. Make sure you wash your hands, drink water, and get enough rest. Take it easy and have a good one. Peace out.